Then we no need to develop the server dependent XML files. We no need to develop the server dependent XML files. Only one time we can developing the XML files. Only one time we can developing the XML files, and we can deploy that application in which server you want. You want a Glassfish server na, you want a WebLogic server na, you want a IBM, which server you want we can use, and we can deploy that application. That application is running happily. These many advantages are there as part of Spring Framework. As part of Spring Framework. Okay, as part of Spring Framework. Finally, my conclusion is here. As Spring is an alternative framework of EJB technology. Spring is an alternative framework of EJB technology. This is not a total replacement. It is an alternative framework. There is some issues in EJB technology. That is the reason we are simplified that problems, and the industry peoples was introduced into this Spring Framework. At that time, 2003, this project was going to be released to the market. Now the different company peoples like a TCS, then Wipro, HCL, the next entity, Oracle, like this. Different company peoples was going to utilizing this framework, and they are going to be starting the projects. At that time, everybody is going to be getting the more flexibility. While using this Spring Framework and developing the applications. Okay, while developing the applications. Now, according to the industry, here two types of frameworks are there. According to the industry, two types of frameworks are there. What are the two types of frameworks here? Number one, invasive framework. Number two, non-invasive framework. Invasive framework and non-invasive framework. Invasive framework and non-invasive framework. Invasive framework and non-invasive framework. First of all, what is the difference between framework and technology? You know, right? So technology is different, framework is different. Technology means it contains some set of file, just we can installing that set of file in our machine, then automatically technology is going to be installed in our machine. For example, Tomcat server set of file is there, then we can say that is the one of the software. Java is there, Java software is there, that is one of the software. Wherever we are finding the set of file, then we can say that is software only. Oracle is there, WebLogic server is there. All are contains what? Set of files. All are contains what? Set of files. Wherever we are finding the set of file, immediately we can say that is software. That is software. But framework is not like that. Framework means it contains a collection of jar files. Framework means it contains a collection of jar files. We can download those jar files from the internet, and we can place all the jar files in the class path location. Then placing all the jar files in the class path location is nothing but a installation of the framework. For example, JUnit is one of the framework. JUnit is one of the framework. Struts is one of the framework. The next, Spring is one of the framework. Hibernate is one of the framework. Hibernate is one of the framework. Like this, different frameworks is there. JSF is one of the framework. Like this, around 65 frameworks are there as part of Java. If you want to work with on that frameworks, just we can download all the jar files from the net, and we can put it into all the jar files in the class path location. Placing all the jar files in the class path location is nothing but a installation of the framework. Installation of the framework. Okay, installation of the framework. Now second different. What is the first different? Installation of the technology is nothing but just we can click on set a file, then automatically it is going to be installing the technology. But framework is not like that. Downloading all the jar files and we can place it into all the jar files in the class path location is nothing but a installation of the framework. Second different is, by using technology we can developing an application. By using framework we can developing the applications, projects. But whenever we are using the technology, it will take a lot of time to implementing the project. Whereas whenever we are taking the frameworks, application development is going on rapidly. We can develop within a time and we can deliver that project from company location to client location. Very simple understanding in world and days the industry peoples, in world and days the customers. If you want to buy the one shirt, first of all we have to go to the so and so shop and we can buy the cloth. After that we can submitting to the so and so tailor. Now the tailor is saying we have to wait for 1 or 2 days. After that once again we can go to the tailor. Now the tailor is saying I am not completing your shirt, or some buttons was not completed, we have to wait for some time. So now totally 3 or 4 days is required for if you want to construct one set in world and days. But nowadays directly we can go to the so and so shopping mall and we can buy the shirt, and the shopping mall itself we can wear and we can go to our home. Right? So that much of flexibility is there nowadays. In the same way, if we want to developing an applications or projects by using technologies, it will take a lot of time. We can approach to the different sites. We can getting the information from different sites. After that we can assembling the information, then we can constructing to an application. It will take a lot of time to implementing the one project. But whereas by using these frameworks, we can developing an application is rapidly. Within a time we can developing the project and we can deliver that project from company location to client location. That is the advantage of these frameworks. That is the reason nowadays the industry peoples, they are concentrating on mainly frameworks. Why? Because rapidly we can developing an application. How it is possible? The frameworks was provided by the already some ready-made components. Components is nothing but a classes and interfaces. They are provided by some ready-made components. Using that ready-made components and happily we can developing an application within a time. That is the reason almost all 90% of the peoples, they are concentrating on to implementing the applications by using these frameworks only. Why we are highlighting only Spring and Hibernate starts frameworks here? Current industry was going to used by these frameworks. That is the reason I am going to highlighting here. Maybe tomorrow another framework is coming, then must and should we need to concentrating on that framework, and we can study that framework. Based on the client requirement, we can implementing the project and we can submitting the project from company location to client location. Fine. So now, according to the industry, here two types of frameworks are there. Number one is what? Invasive framework. Number two is what? Non-invasive framework. Invasive framework means Must and should we need to implementing the some predefined API. So invasive framework means we need to implementing the predefined API. Even though it is the framework, must and should we need to implementing the some predefined API. So now, what is that invasive framework? Any example? Yes. Struts is the invasive framework. Even though it is the framework, then must and should we need to implementing the predefined API. Okay, must and should we need to implementing the predefined API. The struts framework was implemented by the Clanahan. Clanahan was the founder of the struts framework. If we want to developing the any component by using struts, we need to extend some predefined API. For example, I want to developing the one form bean. Form bean is used for what? Client entered input values storing purpose. Client entered to the username and password at the browser side. That means opening the one browser and we can enter the username and password. Those values are going to the server side. Now in server side, one class is there, that class having one object. Those values are stored into the inside that object. So now that object we call them as a form bean object in struts. How to implementing that form bean object? Like this: public, example only, public class. Okay, class. So now here login form extends action form. Extends action form. This is the way to implementing the okay, form bean class. What is the purpose of this form bean class? Client entered input values are going to be stored. Okay, this action form was provided by the reset method and the validate method. Like this, some methods was going to provided by this action form. We can overriding. So now here, what contains this login form? Okay, some properties. The next, each property having setters and getters. The next, reset method. The next, validate method. Like this. Totally 4 points we have to define inside this login form. This is the one class available to the in which package? org.apache.struts.action.star package. Like this we can define the login form. That means must and should we need actions or not? This is what? Invasive. Okay, even though it is the framework, must and should we need actions to the action form. This components comes under heavyweight only. So such type of frameworks we call them as invasive frameworks. In the same, if you want to developing the action classes, then what we have to do? If you want to developing the action classes, then must and should we need to extend action like that. Okay, lot of concept is there in this area struts, right? So that means the struts is the heavyweight component. This is comes under invasive frameworks. Now coming to the non-invasive framework. Sir, so far we didn't start the spring. Before entering into the spring, first of all, some awareness is required. Not only this concept, you can take any concept or any framework. Now, first of all, before learning the any concept, some awareness is required, and we have to understanding very clearly. After that, we can learn the any concept or any technology. Directly we are learning the so and so technology means that is waste of your time. We have to analysis first of all. While learning the Spring Framework, what is the purpose? Tomorrow we are not available to the here. Tomorrow we are going to entering into the industry. Now what the industry is expected from your side? We have to think in such a way that we have to concentrate and we have to learn the concept. Not only this Spring, we can take any framework or any technology. Before learning that framework and technology, we have to analyze. After analysis is completed, then we can concentrate to learn that concept, and as it is we can apply to that knowledge to in our application, and we can start your applications. That is the reason first of all I gave to this some awareness before entering into this Spring Framework. So now directly we are learning the Spring means tomorrow we are going to the company, so and so company, and our team lead or project manager is assigning to the task. Hello boss, this is the one project, this is the SBI or SBH application. So now if any issues are coming, then we can resolve it. And in this project I am using the Spring. Where we are using the Spring? In which place we are using the Spring? We are using the presentation layer now, we are using the business layer now. Where we are going to use the Spring? Yes, I am completing the Spring. Completing the Spring means completing the Spring only. So don't do like that. We have to understanding perfectly, then immediately we can pick up that points and we can start the application development, or we can start the bugging, any errors or any issues. Okay, so that is the reason before entering into this Spring Framework, first of all I gave to this some before the technology, before the drawbacks I am going to explain, then immediately I am going to entering into that Spring Framework. Okay, learning the Spring Framework is not a matter, but where exactly we are going to use this Spring Framework, now that point we have to understanding properly, right? So now non-invasive framework. Non-invasive framework means that framework doesn't force into the programmers, please extend to the predefined API like that. For example, Spring is the non-invasive framework. Spring is the non-invasive framework. Hibernate is the non-invasive framework. Hibernate is the non-invasive framework. Spring was developed by the Rod Johnson. And Hibernate was developed by the Gavin King. Okay, Hibernate was developed by the Gavin King. So like this, non-invasive frameworks are there, invasive frameworks are there. Now, invasive frameworks means somewhat heavyweight only, but non-invasive frameworks means never be forcing to the programmers, totally lightweight components. If our component is become lightweight, it is given to the more performance. Now coming to our actual point. Before the Spring Framework, this is the happening. The project implementation was done like this. Now after the Spring Framework, after the Spring Framework, how the project implementation was done. Now just observing here, this is what presentation layer. This is what presentation layer. This is the presentation layer. Right, this is the presentation layer. As part of presentation layer, the industry people was used by the struts, JSF, AngularJS, AngularJS like this. AngularJS like this. Okay, different web frameworks are there. We can use those web frameworks, and we can developing the view part. And these frameworks was provided by some controllers. Using that controllers, we can implementing the controller part. Now coming to the business layer. Coming to the business layer. As part of business layer, the industry people was used by the business component development purpose Spring Framework. Business component development purpose Spring Framework. Business component development purpose Spring Framework. And persistency purpose. Persistency means connecting the database and perform to the database related operations. Hibernate Framework. Then finally, databases. RDBMS. Maybe Oracle database, or DB2, or CDH database, or SQL server, etc. Okay, after the Spring Framework, this is the project architecture. After the Spring Framework, this is the project architecture. Okay, so now this is what data access logic purpose. We are using Hibernate. So now if we want to implementing the business components, now we can use what? Spring. As part of Spring Framework, we are going to concentrating on this part. Okay, this part we are going to concentrate as part of Spring Framework. Now some of the peoples was used by the web services, right? Some of the peoples was used by the web services, where we can use the web services here. So now this business logic wants to utilizing the .NET peoples or mainframe peoples. So if we want to utilizing this same business logic .NET peoples or mainframe peoples, why they want to utilizing, sir? I don't want developing the once again to the same business logic in my company. So it is there already, this logic. Assume that this is the banking application. This banking application wants to utilizing the .NET peoples also. Business logic already implemented. So now if you want to utilizing this business logic, .NET peoples. So for example, .NET guys, .NET peoples or mainframe peoples. If you want to utilizing the same business logic, .NET peoples and mainframe peoples, between this technology and this technology we have to use what? Web services peoples was going to be involved. So now those guys was going to be taken by this total business environment. This total business environment they are going to be taken. This total business environment they are going to be taken, and they are going to be generating the some visual web services description language. They are going to be generating the some visuals, and these visuals was going to forwarding to the mainframe peoples as well as .NET peoples. These guys was going to be utilizing this business logic also. They are going to be written their own logic, and they are going to be presenting the data. That means this .NET peoples and mainframe peoples, once again they are not developing any business code. They are going to be utilizing this business logic, these guys also. If we want to utilizing now in middle, one more layer is going to be involved, that is web services. Now the web services peoples are going to be, okay, so now taken by this all the components, and they are going to be converting into the visuals, and finally these visuals was going to forwarding to the mainframe peoples and .NET peoples, right? So now as part of Spring Framework, I will give all the modules. Okay, I will give all the modules. Now what are the modules I am going to discussing in this session? Now first we need observing here. Right. So now as part of Spring Framework, in 1.x and 2.x, there are given to the totally 7 modules. What are that 7 modules? 1.x and 2.x, there are given to the total 7 modules. Number 1, Spring IOC module. Number 2, Spring with JDBC module. Number 3, Spring with ORM module. Number 4, Spring with J2EE module. Number 5, Spring with AOP. Number 6, Spring with MVC. Number 7, Spring with WebMVC. Totally 7 modules was going to be given by the 1.x and 2.x, and 3.x and 4.x they are going to be reduced by the one module, that is Spring with MVC and Spring with WebMVC. Finally they are given to the single module called that is Spring with WebMVC. Now we'll see this is just small diagram. spring IOC, spring IOC module. The next, this is also called as core module. Core module. Core module. Core module. So now the second module, spring with the spring with the JDBC, spring with JDBC, spring with JDBC, the next, this is the base module annata. This is the base module. The next, spring with ORM, ORM, the next, spring with the J2EE, spring with J2EE. The next, spring with the AOP, spring with the AOP, the next, finally spring with WebMVC, spring with the WebMVC, spring with WebMVC. So like this totally, okay, 6 modules are there as part of spring 3.x and 4.x. and 4.x. Okay, these many modules are there. Each and every module I am going to given to the very clearly, and each and every concept I am going to explain very clearly, as well as I am going to executing the each and every example. I am going to explain each and every example practically, right? So that's all for today. Then tomorrow I am going to take actual spring framework. What is the IOC module? I am going to start tomorrow session, right? Thank you.